Let's see, the time being 8:10 a.m. on Tuesday, November 7th. I'd like to call to order the Westborough Economic Development Committee meeting. First thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from October 3rd. Has everybody had a chance to review those? And if so, any comments, questions, or motions? Everybody good with them?
Motion to approve the minutes?
All right, we'll have to do a roll call because we've got Scott on Zoom. So Alexander, yes?
Kearney, yes.
Kenny, yes.
Leonardo, yes.
Acton, yes.
Williams, yes.
Keo, yes.
Jingles, yes.
Zorro, yes.
Rayleigh, yes.
Awesome. Thank you all very much. Great. We're going to change the agenda a little bit if everybody's okay with that. We have the EDC award grants to discuss at 8:40 a.m., but seeing how it's just one applicant, and I think we'll have some, I think it makes sense to go through that first because it can be fairly quick. So with that, Mark, I'll let you start with it.
So we have Ryan here from Ryan Wood here from Washington. If you want to come, Ryan's going to say a few words to the committee.
Great.
Go from there.
Good morning, guys. Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Ryan Wood. I am the owner of the Movement Room over on 30 Lyman Street. I've been in business in Westborough for 3 years, and I've been looking for quite a while to expand my gym. I've primarily focused on golf performance training and do some general fitness training as well, one-on-one and adult populations as well. The grant for me would be very important to help kind of offset some of the initial costs with flooring installation and store-approved signage that would be, permitted through the town. So again, I thank you guys for the opportunity, and if you guys have any questions for me, I'd love to answer or tell you a little bit more about, what I do.
So you've been there for 3 years, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Just a backstory, just so everyone knows, he's currently located in the Milk Building. It's the Mill Building on Milk Street, 69 Milk, and it has probably 3 or 4 times the size of the facility, jumping from a very small, probably 300 square foot, maybe?
Yep, between 350 square feet to 400, up to 1,700.
Oh, so you're moving
Oh, you're
from the Mill
moving,
Building
okay.
to
Yes.
Lyman
Sorry.
Street?
Oh, got it.
Okay, 30 Lyman. Which building is that?
That's below the Corridor 9 Chamber
Oh, right.
building.
Okay, awesome.
First floor of that building.
Well,
Great.
congratulations on your expansion. That's pretty exciting.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Taking over the old martial arts studio that used to be in there.
Great.
Gotcha. Okay.
Great.
So this grant will help you to expand,
Correct.
offset some of
Yes,
those
ma'am.
expansions. Okay.
And he's going from a basement level where he was kind of hidden in the Mill Building up to a first level retail space.
Yeah.
So it's a much nicer, more visible spot.
That's great. I think that's everything we kind of look for with these grants, and they scored pretty high with 60 points, so, yeah.
And he has a 5-year lease going forward at the new location, so it's a business that's going to be here for long term.
And just curious, when do you plan on opening over there?
Tomorrow.
Really? Wow.
So I signed the delivery date, I believe, was the 19th of October.
Okay.
So basically the last 2 weeks, I've been in there nonstop getting things ready. It was delivered as is. It was in great shape. Just did
Yeah.
some painting.
Yeah, really.
Installed my rubber flooring, put in my golf simulator, and the turf is being delivered today. So I've got a nice busy Tuesday getting ready. And then this afternoon I will have the building inspection.
Okay.
Ryan, quick question. How many people do you have come through on an average day or say per week? Like clients
So
and things?
the great thing about this space is going to allow me to train more people at a time, which is something that myself and clients really like, more of a group atmosphere, especially when you get with golfers or even just adult populations that kind of like that community aspect.
Yeah.
So I would say I'm kind of looking at between 6 to 8 people starting out.
Okay.
I kind of will, over the next few months, tinker with things a little bit as well. My wife is due with our second daughter next month,
Oh.
probably about 3 weeks. So I've been trying to really kind of get everything
Yeah.
lined up so that I'm ready to really rock for January.
Yeah.
You know, while she's going to be at home and stuff.
That's great, great. And I think it says it on here, but I didn't catch it. How many employees do you have, or do you have employees?
Just me.
Just you, okay,
Yes, ma'am.
great, thanks.
What are your hours of operation?
All over the place. I pretty much will start at either 6:30 or 7 a.m. Until about 7 or 7:30 p.m. at night.
Thank you.
Okay. And so the total project cost is a little over $11,000. You're requesting $10,000.
Originally, weren't sure that he might qualify for the vacant storefront program, so we thought asking for
Yeah.
the 10 would be the right idea, but later on understanding that the max of this grant would be 5,000,
Okay.
because he's outside the downtown
Yeah.
purview for the vacant storefront program.
Okay. Any other questions? I mean, this, to me, seems like it's exactly what the grant was created for, so it's great to see you expanded in Westborough. and
Thank you.
I think you're gonna be very successful at this location.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I know you got another client. I'll be coming to see you shortly, so,
Perfect.
didn't even know you were there, so
Me
that's
either.
great.
I was like, oh, a golf guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
awesome. All right, and
Want to make a motion to approve the grant for $5,000 for the movement room expansion. Is that right?
Second?
all right, we'll do a roll call again. Alexander, yes?
Kearney Coker, yes?
Kenny, yes?
Minardo, yes. Bagley, yes.
Williams, yes.
Keo, yes.
Jingles, yes.
Perot, yes.
Rayleigh, yes.
Awesome. Great, congratulations.
Thank you guys very much. I
Congratulations.
Good luck.
appreciate it.
Good luck with the move.
Great.
That's great.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Thank you. He's gonna go lay some turf down.
Okay, next on the agenda is the Design Review Board. I don't know who's presenting. It looks like Michael is not here, but
That's right. Michael is not here. Good morning, everyone. My name is Christian Hedrick. I'm on the member of the Design Review Board. This is Allison Lindsay, who's here with me today. My apologies that Michael and Hazel cannot attend this morning. Thank you very much for seeing us, for giving us opportunity to come and present to you. We have a letter that was basically authored by Michael, and he had kind of intended to be here. So what I was gonna do is kind of read through this, cause it kind of lays out everything we've been talking about recently. And then, you know, if there's questions, we're happy to discuss them. The Westborough Design Review Board would like to state its shared commitment to develop and maintain a vibrant business atmosphere in the downtown Rotary District. Our charge since 2015 has been to enhance the natural and aesthetic qualities and to protect and preserve historic and cultural aspects of the area around the Rotary. We review the design of new buildings, renovations, landscape enhancements, and most of all, signage within the district. Currently, we've seen a spike in businesses that are not adhering to the signage regulations of the town bylaws and/or the Westborough Design Review Board guidelines. We are beginning efforts to get these businesses back in compliance in the most professional manner possible. Many of us on the Design Review Board are business owners. We're sensitive to the efforts and distractions in creating and running a business, but it is hard to review and approve signage or other changes for our new applicants when the neighboring businesses are not complying with the bylaws. There are a few particularly problematic offenders that we will begin to notify very soon. We've met with the town's zoning enforcement officer, Fred Leonardo, recently about our concerns and a path forward. We're asking for the support of the EDC in this effort. Our ultimate goal is to preserve the Westborough brand. We believe strongly that we all win with a strong, consistent, and creative business aesthetic in the downtown area. Moreover, we believe both boards can work together to further develop the downtown Rotary District and beyond. The intersection of business and government is always murky. No one appreciates multiple levels of scrutiny, but we believe we can be helpful. We are happy to meet informally with the new or existing businesses in Westborough regarding rules and expectations. We can share addresses of successful buildings, landscapes, and signage examples. We would like to develop easier paths to design approvals and reward businesses in good standing through awards, press, etc. We would appreciate any feedback and suggestions. Thank you very much for your attention in this matter. That's it. So, since the Design Review Board has become responsible for signage, obviously there's been, I'm the chair of the Historical Commission as well. Since it was sort of transferred onto the Design Review Board, it's inescapable for me. But it seems to be even more of a flurry of sign applications that we've been dealing with in the past few months, I guess, which is a good thing. So this kind of question has come up. We've been brainstorming at our meetings, discussions about how we might be able to make it easier. So one of the things that came up was to come here and talk to you guys about how, if you had any ideas, one of the things that we're continually talking about is putting some kind of handbook or something on the website to sort of, with some diagrams and maybe examples that might make it easier, because often people don't even know that they have to come before us for sign approvals, and so then we're dealing with these awkward situations. So that's basically the gist of it. I mean, we're happy to answer any questions. This is just to really get the discussion going.
Okay. I think what you're talking about doing to try and improve the process makes a lot of sense. I think that as a business owner and a broker, whenever I'm doing a deal with somebody, I inform them, depending on where it's located, they may have to go in front of the Design Review Board for their signage approval. I think that I'm a little concerned about, I'd like to know more detail about those people that are in violation, those that you'd like to go back and, it sounds like, get the building commissioner involved. Just tell me, if you can, explain more and maybe give some examples or what have you.
Sure. About a year and a half, or when did we do that?
Oh,
The analysis.
yeah, it was probably about a year and a half.
About
ago,
a year and a half ago, we kind of went around town and photographed and inundated Kristen's inbox with a whole bunch of photographs of, what we would consider, inconsistencies or violations of the bylaws. Some of them are as simple as, someone having 3 or 4 lit open signs in one window, right, or in their kind of windowscape, having like 3 open signs that are all flashing, which technically those flashing open signs are violating the bylaw. But we've been discussing also, like, how do we pick our battles to a certain extent, also discussions about, there's obviously a limit on how many signs you can have, so sometimes somebody will have 3 signs, or they'll have, information that's not technically allowed on their window, like they'll have the Instagram and a website and all this other stuff, or, some of them are even safety issues where they don't have their address displayed properly or something like that. So there's a whole range, there's a whole gamut of things, and so instead of kind of nitpicking with every little detail, we're trying to develop a strategy that is fair and consistent, and business owners can understand, that the people that we can sort of agree on, and that's why we wanted to come here and talk to you guys about it. I mean, we're not looking for any specific, proclamation today, but we just wanted to start the discussion going.
So it's not necessarily the replacement of all of these signs, it's really kind of the cleanup, would you say, of the storefronts?
To a certain extent, I mean, don't you think in the Rotary
Yeah,
it
I think
often
it's probably a combination. I mean, there's some businesses that are just, it looks like Vegas driving through town at night with flashing lights in the windows, and to me that's a distraction when I'm driving through town. And so things like that are like glaring, but it's like Christian said, it's very difficult to say that you can't do this, but their neighbor next door has been allowed to do it. So And I think there was a lot of leeway during the shutdown. Of course, we as businesses all suffered and, you know, did what we could and put on the dog and pony shows as much as we could. And if that had to be through signage, it was through signage. But now it's some places have just gotten out of control, and it's difficult to keep it fair for everybody and to make it look like we want it to look downtown and not distracting, but clean business signs.
Gotcha.
Have you received any complaints, Fred, or on signage?
No, just outside, not outside the board, to be honest. So it's been predominantly through the design review board.
Mhm.
When were the bylaws written?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
What was the question, Scott?
When were they?
When were the bylaws written for the design review board?
Well, the sign bylaws themselves have been in effect probably time immemorial. They've been flexed a little bit. For instance, we added the projecting signs this past, about a year ago. So there's been alterations to the sign bylaws, Scott, but they've been in effect forever. Some of the, probably about 4 years ago, there was a push for the neon signs, so they were outlawed pretty much everywhere, or the movement signs, the automated signs, I should say, not the neon, they've been outlawed for many years, but the automated signs are pretty much only allowed in one district now, maybe industrial and maybe highway, but you can't have, like, Cumberland Farm sign, for instance, is not allowed in that district anymore. And that was an advent in the last 3 or 4 years. So they've been manipulated. The sign bylaws have been kind of massaged over the last few years. The design review now is wholly responsible for the designs of signs downtown. That was a change within the last year or so. It used to be historical, depending on who was doing the sign and stuff, but now it's strictly under design review.
Quick question.
Thank you. That was going to be my next question, is when was the last time it was updated or upgraded, you know, and, you know, as things change throughout time. So, thank you.
So the town has not taken a holistic view of the sign bylaw, at least in my 6+ years here. Again, there's been bits and pieces of it that have been altered over the years, but we've not sat down as a planning board and gone through the whole bylaw from soup to nuts.
So, I think you mentioned that there's nothing, specific regulations or examples aren't really up on the website. Weren't some of those on the historical commission website? I think I remember when I applied about 6 years ago for my signage.
They used to have,
Yeah.
they used to provide examples of fonts, colors.
Yeah.
There is a design review guideline and manual on the website.
There is a manual, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the question is, I think part of the issue is that we're interested in making it more, I'm not sure exactly how this would be done through drawings or through photographs or exactly how, but we've been discussing ways to make it easier to, you know, sometimes people, I don't know, don't want to read a 5, 6, 7, 10, 12 page sign regulation, you know, and yes, technically it's there, you know, but it's a little bit tricky when we get applicants and they come to us and they say, oh, well, why can't I do this, you know, my neighbor has this sign or whatever, and we have to say, well, it's not in violation, or it is in violation, or, you know, we don't have a grandfather, you know, and then other people take over a business and they say, well, I want to leave that kind of, those signs there, and we have to talk about, well, we don't have a grandfathering aspect to this type of sign. So, you know, we're definitely interested in making something that's a little bit more accessible online, something that's a little bit easier and clearer, rather than, you know, because it wastes time, frankly. Sometimes people come in, you know, not all the business owners live anywhere near Westborough, so they have to make a commute here, and they've got to present in front of us, and then we end up having to say, well, did you see this online, and did you, you know, so it can get a little bit frustrating. So it would be, you know, I think one of our main concerns is to try to get them information as they're applying perhaps, or as soon as we're aware of their interest in creating a sign or opening a business, then we can sort of, try to get them this information sooner, because often it's sort of after they're already there and and they've already hired a sign company, and then suddenly we're presented with something that doesn't, conform. That's part of the issue.
So in the effort to, the problematic offenders, there's probably gonna be costs involved, for the businesses, and we all know that things are pretty lean right now, all of us that are business owners. Is there, I can think of one in particular that looks like it would be a big job. Are you looking at ways to provide them with some kind of some funding or grants, or, how will you approach that with the existing businesses? Especially if they've been around for a while and you're gonna
Yes.
go in there and say, oh,
Right.
by the way.
No, that's a great question. In terms of grants and things, we were hoping that we would try to speak to more departments, like the EDC, to try
Right.
to access maybe things like that, or work together to try. We don't have any independent funding ourselves
Okay.
to pay for those. Sometimes it's a matter of just turning off 2 of your violating open signs,
Yeah, that's why I
and
think that was a great answer
and
to
leaving the
that.
one
Yeah.
or whatever, even though, it could be, some of them are very simple fixes.
Yeah.
We're totally mindful of things like that, so, trying to think of other examples, but.
Yeah, some of them would be, cost, some of them, need to be taken down, and, we're dealing with one right downtown right now, and it's gonna be costlier, there's no doubt about it. That they're taking over this business. Like Christian said, we don't, that I'm aware of, have any kind of grants that would be available to us, but that's a great suggestion that we can look into, certainly, to help business
Right,
owners,
yeah.
because every little bit helps, as we all know.
Yeah, the sooner they can come, we can start interacting with them, the more money they can save, because they don't have to go back to their sign company, they don't have to do revisions.
Yeah.
We could see something up front. By the time they get to us in the formal process, then it's a simple yes, and, I think that ultimately would probably save the most money for them.
I would suggest making a video.
Yeah.
What's right, what's wrong, and and maybe work with Karen at the Westborough TV and do some sort of a, this is
Yeah.
perfect, this is not kind of thing, to give people an example, and maybe it goes up on the EDC website when they're applying for, that would be my suggestion, because you're right, no one wants to read anything these days.
The only thing I would just recommend is that you do your homework, obviously, and make sure that, there are some signs that are grandfathered in, and you don't want to be identifying those as, signs that were done incorrectly, because at the time they abide, per the zoning bylaws that we had,
Right.
they were allowed, so.
It seems like it's a two-phase project, right? It's making sure people that come online are adhering to guidelines, and then people that are in existence that aren't. That's another phase. It seems easier on the first phase.
It's definitely easier on the first phase.
Right.
Yeah, and it's, as a business owner, we did it right from the beginning, and do I like that my signs are not our brand colors? No, but that's what we needed to do for our building, and I'm totally fine with that. But, there are examples out there that people are just say, well, that's okay, this is my business, and I'm gonna do it the way I wanna do it, and that's where we're running into problems.
Fred, as it relates to new tenants, is there part of the approval process that deals with signage, or does that go straight to DRB?
So part of the process, if it's within 2,500 square feet of the, linear feet of the rotary, it has to go to design review if it's in a commercial district. So residential is exempt from that, so commercial, industrial. So downtown business, gateway, industrial zone. The process is a little squirrely because they do need a sign permit. a lot of times they'll get the design review before they actually get to the sign permit. We can't issue the sign permit until design review has done their review. So we don't always see the sign permit before it's gone to that committee. So how it gets to the committee is probably a disconnect of some sort. I don't know how they know if they go through Mark, certainly as the economic development individual, he would inform them. Some of the property owners have some guidelines, albeit over the years, we've tried to interact with that. Stonegate comes to mind. They had some regulations that they showed their tenants that actually weren't in compliance. They would be now, but, so that's always a good way too, is to reach out to the property owners and actually have them inform their tenants when they go to sign a lease that process is in place. But as a town, unless we know that a company's coming, which we often don't actually, until they're kind of in there. So it's kind of hard to interact on our behalf, but we try to do the best we can, to my knowledge.
So one of the master plan priorities is to work on streamlining the permitting process, and planning board is now online, and design review board is also an online permitting application. And with the new website, we're going to be working on making it a little more user-friendly so that someone can go online and find these documents easily. I do think that from my perspective as a planner, that the design standards are very lengthy and a little bit cumbersome for an average business owner to understand. So we can definitely take a look at those from a planning perspective and see if maybe we can narrow them down, add some visuals, things like that, to just make it a little more user-friendly, easy to understand. And then maybe even look at, revising some of the items, because I think it's important to understand also what the business community can do, what's financially possible, and then what Westborough wants to see as a community on the signage. So I think there's lots of different avenues that we can take, and I think we'll get there. But we can definitely work together and figure something out to revise that.
If I may too, I would formally suggest, and I think I've kind of bandied this out there, but I would be more adamant about this. I think we really should have, between the town planning department, economic development, we should have a formal meeting with the property owners, because again, I'll have an example of a couple of years ago, Stonegate came, I actually had a tenant come to me and show me the guidelines Stonegate was showing them, and they were actually in violation of the bylaw at the time. They would be compliant now, but so it'd be very important that the property owners understand what the bylaw are and what the design requirements are, because they're the first ones to interact with businesses. So if they have a guideline or at least some communication that, hey, you're gonna have to go through this process. So if they're educated on that, they're really our first line of defense. So as I said, I would really recommend that that process gets put out to them.
Yeah, definitely. I just think the input from the business owners and community is so important, because they're the ones submitting the application. So from our end, we tend to take a more technical point of view on it, because it makes sense to us. It's our language, so to speak. But to a business owner coming in, they might not understand all of the different requirements, everything that's in there. So I agree with Fred that we really should be seeking their input on what we're asking.
So it would seem that the first part, like the two phases, the first phase, when it's a new business coming in to open up, that's really incumbent on the business owner. And I know what we're saying, but that's up to you to figure that out. And if you get to the point where you get over to get approval and you're not approved because you didn't, do your homework, then I don't know what to tell you. But having said that, I think for the existing businesses, where some of the really big offenders, what type of enforcement are you talking? I mean, even if we kind of join in and, get on board with you guys and say this is what we're going to do moving forward, I mean, are we talking fines? Is that something that you could, levy, or?
I think we're first interested in educating them.
Right.
And helping them out. because, and also, I mean, not that people want to read white papers, but at all, but there's a fair amount of data on when you have too much signage, it's an overwhelming,
Yeah.
you know, it's actually not a good strategy for business. I mean,
Right,
there's
right.
plenty of examples of that. Just going all out Vegas style doesn't really help you. And we've had several, you know, business owners very aware of that, and they say, well, I want it to be, you know, more minimal, or, you know, how can I, you know, it has more of a punch if it's like a little bit less or whatever. So there's plenty of agreement. You know, we're not interested in, there are, I think in the end there are fines, but we talked about that, but we're not interested in going down that path first, at all. I mean, I think informing them, you know, a letter with a link to maybe explaining the bylaws, something that we come up with, whether it's just a clearer manual, some kind of like how to use this manual, if we're not able to like sort of revise things, you know, quickly enough, a video, whatever it is, to sort of like inform them of what's going on. Because a lot of people don't even know, you know, and several years ago in the Historical Commission, when we were still dealing with this, we had somebody come and they were so angry at us that they even had to have their sign, and I said, well, it's the bylaws, you know, or this is something that, you know, how am I supposed to know this, you know, well, you came to a new town, maybe you should look at the bylaws. I mean, it was quite uncomfortable. And we weren't there to, you know, antagonize this person at all, but we were just trying to like help them, but they were very upset. Just even the fact that they even had to deal with anything sign related. So, you know, it's, again, I think it's all about information, education, and getting that to the business owners first, and then that might start the the discussion. That's our hope.
It would seem that, are we still doing that, monthly, like new businesses, information, kind of the fast track?
The one stop.
The one stop,
Yeah.
they're
So
weekly if
This
if
would seem to
needed,
be a
yeah.
very good kind of
Yeah.
addition to that, or
Okay.
somehow
That's an
pulling
idea.
that in there, because this is a big part of that.
When applicants go to the business one-stop, that's the issue, that you might have
Correct.
somebody that moves out, somebody takes a space as
Right.
is, doesn't even do any work in it, throw up a new sign, and
Yeah.
that's the issue. So that's really, I think it goes back to Fred's point
Yeah.
of educating the landlords, getting the word out there. But piggybacking off of what Fred and Jenny said, I do think that not only the signage guidelines, taking a look at them, but I think the whole design guideline really should be taken a good look at. It was adopted in 1998, with the last amendments were done in 2012. So I think it's safe to assume that some of this stuff is probably outdated. And I know that in your letter, you mentioned, you know, wanting to have strong, consistent, creative business aesthetic in the downtown area. In my personal opinion, I don't know that our design guidelines provide for creative aesthetics in the downtown area. And I'd like to see, if you would, consider more leeway to that. I look at like downtown Wellesley. It's a hugely successful downtown. They've got a lot of variety in the architecture that they have there, and I think that works. So I would encourage you guys to consider that as well. So that's just my point of view. I'm not necessarily speaking for the board.
I have just a general question. The design required us to designate historic buildings as those built before or 1945. I don't know if I'm showing my age, but that doesn't sound very historic to me. What was the reason for picking 1945 for historic
Okay,
buildings?
so speaking as an architectural historian then for a moment, 1945 designates the post-war moment, which things changed significantly at that point in architectural history. So we've got the rise of modernism in several decades before that, but then after the war, there's a lot more like mass production and things like that happening. Housing explodes. I mean, if you look at Westborough's housing, it's just like shoots up, you know, right after the war, obviously, for GI Bill and all those things. So I wasn't around when they chose that date, but I mean, it makes sense as somewhere in the 20th century to draw a line in terms of historicity of a potential structure. I mean, there are buildings that are significant that have been built after that time period, but that I think it was an attempt to try to protect, right, that sort of purview always sort of tries to protect something that, you know, is built prior to a certain time period. So I can't explain exactly why whoever it was that chose that date, but within architectural history generally, it's a fairly significant time. And that's the kind of date that that specialists, you know, draw their line from and to. So you're either a post-war architectural historian or a pre-war, you know, so a modernist, and there's all these lines that they draw, but that is one of the kind of designating ways. And so when we say before the war, that allows us to sort of have a particular type of framework, like certain construction techniques, certain patterns of development, you know, arise after that time period, so that are not necessarily within that purview, I guess, if that makes sense.
Okay, so I think that what I'm hearing is we're willing to work with you, but would like to see what you're proposing first and maybe come up with some new creative guidelines that maybe a video, like Sandy said. I think that would be fantastic. And but
Even top offending things, like what are the top 3 things that are an issue to design and review, so maybe we can attack those as opposed to trying to kill the entire list. If it's 1 or 2 things that are too many open signs, if that's an issue, then let's try and address simple, small bites as opposed to trying to make the retailer absorb the cost of all those changes at once.
Is there any provision for temporary signs, Christmas, Halloween, that
Yes.
sort of thing? And is there like a time, you can't start Christmas in July, but you can on December 1st or anything like that?
Well, if somebody comes to us and wants to have Christmas in July, they can put up a Christmas in July sign theoretically. And there are a lot of exceptions and leeways there. They can use vinyl. I mean, all kinds of, it really just, it comes before the board and we sort of evaluate it and decide, we figure out how long they want it up, and then we sort of agree on a time range for them to have it up for a certain amount of time. Allison just had one of those herself approved.
Yes, one of the things that last year we won Best of the Best for Metro West, and we wanted a vinyl sign up. So as a business owner, I had to go in front of the design review board, of which I'm on. So my business partner came in, and honestly, I know a lot of people don't go through that process and they just tack up a sign. So not everybody wanted my sign to go up on my business on the design review board, and I was okay with that. Everyone has their own opinion about what it should look like and what the downtown area should look like. It was approved eventually, but yes, and there is a reason we don't want a lot of temporary signs out, because it just kind of mucks up what the look is supposed to be, or what the goal is for the look. So yes, there is a whole process to go through.
So, Mark, I'm sorry if I may. The short answer is there is a provision in the bylaw to allow temporary signs for 30 days for special events. Those become problematic. I mean, generally I don't address those because they're supposed to be for short durations. Those would become problematic to get special events up in a timely manner, but that is allowed. They're really allowed anywhere in the town. There's no real exception to a zone on that, to my knowledge.
And is there any allowance for the size of the building? Because, I work for Caruth. We had one building that was 680,000 feet, and we could put one sign on it, the same as a 2,000-foot building. So,
You're talking, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
not to interrupt, but you're talking a huge distinction between the number of signs as opposed to the size.
right.
The size is pretty liberal with wall signs. They're 15% of the face. So in your case, you could probably put up a sign of 10,000 square feet or something. So you have to there's a huge distinction between the volume of signs as opposed to the size of signs, if I may.
There's a lot of ratio things in there.
So it sounds like things are
That's
pretty
here.
flexible.
Yeah, we're not unreasonable.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is maybe that's part of the confusion.
It could be.
You know, that there's not like a process or a standard or something with a couple of exceptions versus someone coming in and everyone kind of deciding, which we all want choice, but it might be better to be a little more like here at the get-go, this is what we're doing, and then you come in for an exception versus, that's just, I love flexibility, believe me, but I think that might be part of the confusion possibly. You know, like we all go through the Rotary, and that liquor sign like drives me nuts, right? I don't even live here anymore, but it's been like that for a long time. So I could see that being, you know, let's fix that, you know, kind of thing. That's a big violation of the town and what we want displayed. But those open signs and all the numbers and the size, right? It's just maybe that clarity for someone coming in would be really helpful. And then you come in for an exception versus.
I think Mark's suggestion of just the main offenses,
Yeah.
if you had like a 10-point triage list, and it's like, does it exceed X amount of square footage of your frontage of your building? Do you have multiple neon signs? Do you have this? Do you have that? And, you know, that would be probably the quickest way to simplify it and say these are the no-nos.
And I think
it sounds
adding
like
to the
there's
one
some
side.
kind of a meeting that new businesses have, or an opportunity to have with the EDC.
Yeah, we have what is called a business one-stop, which brings all the town committees together, planning, you know, conservation, everyone, DPW, fire, any question you might have about coming into a building, and allow you to ask those questions in an informal environment. And we will, if signage was a question, we could definitely bring that up at that time. Usually in those meetings, I don't think signage has been a huge concern in those meetings, but I'm sure if something we can definitely add into the list of, you know, just to put them into a checkbox to make sure we mention it's not a terrible idea.
I will say Fred is crazy about signs, so he always mentions it as early and often as he can when we do interact with businesses, because I know it's always an issue, and a lot of businesses wait to the end to do the signage, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would say it should be an add-on, like at the get-go, at that one stop, because the people aren't thinking about it at first. They're thinking about plumbing and floors and signs, kind of like that's like the after, like, ooh, let me get a pretty sign, you know?
And then the other thing I would think is there a particular company that comes to you guys more than often, like Sunshine Signs or something? So maybe addressing the sign, one or two of the larger sign companies that you guys see regularly, and making sure they're aware of our regulations might make it easier for them to be our spokesperson. I'm happy to do that. If you let me know some names of signs companies, I'm happy to reach out and maybe try and connect you guys and see if that might make things smoother for them and us, I guess.
Back to the business one-stop for a second. Perhaps going forward, if the applicant is within the district of the 2,500 feet of the Rotary, you have a representative from the Design Review Board join those meetings in the future going forward?
Happy to do that.
That's a good point.
Are those regular meetings, or
They're
are they?
scheduled every Wednesday we have an open window for every Wednesday at 2:00, but it's as needed as companies come forward.
Are they reserving time, or do you know in
They come
advance?
forward to us usually in advance, a week or two, or depending how far in advance they come to us. But, you know, as early as they can, the sooner we get noticed, the more information we can get out to people ahead of time.
And I could tell you from experience, for especially the larger projects, it really is a helpful, you know, you get everything out front before you move on. I would think they would be pretty busy if every little, you know, small tenant went in, but I know for the larger projects, it's been very helpful, you know.
Okay,
All right.
so we'll look forward to hearing from you with updates and seeing how we can work together on this.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks for coming.
All right, next on the agenda is the Main Street Trick or Treat. Mark?
All right. Yeah, I want to say thank you, everyone that participated in the Main Street Trick or Treat. I think we had great weather and really great attendance. If anyone was out there on the streets, it was a little bit of a madhouse. The biggest complaint I had is everyone ran out of candy, so I guess if that's the biggest complaint I have, I guess that's a good thing. I don't think we'll get that kind of weather again. I mean, I'll be lucky if we get 65 and sunny again at the end of October. We had over 55 businesses participate. Most of the I didn't get a lot of responses back on my follow-up. I got about 10. Most felt it brought them closer to the community. 50% interest opened up outside their normal hours out of the respondents. So a good number of companies, businesses downtown came in on their off day and gave a little extra, which is nice to see. And everyone wants to do it again and wants it to get bigger. So I don't know what that means, but we're gonna keep looking at it from there. I don't think Todd and the police would like it to get much bigger, but we'll because we had the Rotary came in and helped us with crossing guards, and next year we'll probably need some more volunteers as this continues to grow.
That's great.
So I think it was a great event, and looking forward to doing it again next year.
Great job. I
Yeah.
spoke with some people that worked with you, and they were speaking very highly of the job that you did in putting this together.
Thank you.
So,
And my 2 grandkids loved it. They had a blast. So, what I loved about Town Hall too is that all the offices get into it. So it's cool. Like, gives people comfort, and also the adults are like, oh, I didn't know that this was here, and kind of thing. So I think it really opens up.
Exposes the town
yeah.
businesses a little bit, not just in there for bad, paperwork stuff.
Well, that's how it started. It was just a town hall event the first year, and then we had to stop because of COVID, and then we talked about inviting businesses, which has worked really great. And I actually think that we're seeing some of our neighbors trying to do something similar.
Yeah, it's cool.
great. All right, next is the holiday stroll. Update
Yeah,
from-
all right, I'll go into that. Holiday stroll is gonna go on Sunday, November 26th. The stroll portion will be from 2 to 5. I'm still kind of I actually emailed going out today to businesses to get people signed up and get that list going. I'm a little behind on that, but we'll get it rolling. The stroll will be the same as last year, where businesses will offer a service, an event, discount, something to attract customers in. The event will go from 2 to 5, which is then followed by the light parade that's run by the Recreation Department, and the tree lighting and Santa Claus that's done by the Rotary. So hopefully it ties into a full community day. Hopefully we get nice weather and people want to come downtown. I've had a lot of people, I've had vendors asking to put like tents out. I've had different people offering. I haven't said yes to anyone about some of this stuff. I have to speak to Fred a little further, what's allowed and what's not allowed on this good day. But please, if anyone's out and about, knows a business that wants to participate, it doesn't have to be downtown. It can be any business in the community that wants to offer something. And so you can be on Route 9, you could be any place, and please feel free to have them reach out to me, and I'm happy to include them in the list and kind of grow this thing out where we can.
Are we doing a trolley again?
I'm working on the buses with the Willows in a few places, and the Colangelos with buses, but I hope to, but nothing's guaranteed yet.
And I know that we as a Rotary Club have been talking with the Grossman Group as far as like maybe expanding into, Bay State at some point, so.
Yeah, maybe next year.
Yeah.
I heard something about maybe expanding the Santa away from the Rotary into Bay State.
Yeah, trying to kind of funnel the crowd through to kind of, free up that traffic and things like that. So we're working on that.
Yeah, so keep growing this event.
Just quickly, we haven't connected yet, but
Yep.
you had asked about like my experiences. I think, is this 6 years? So I've been there for 6 years, right? So I've been doing it the entire time. I find it very, very helpful for business. It's just a really good way to elevate visibility, and new people come in, and then we always do like a free event for the kids, and they love that. I know a lot of the other businesses do that, and I think it's been very beneficial. So I'd love to, support it in any way possible, and also definitely the trolleys were fabulous. If we can do that again, that was great.
Yeah, okay, I'm working on that.
Yeah.
And like I said, this is, for me, was as I came into this job 2 months ago, the trick or treat was right here, and this
Yep.
was right behind it. So now that I'm getting a chance to kind of drink it all in a little bit, I'm hoping next year we can look to expand and change. Right now, I'm just hoping to keep everything functioning as expected is my hope for this year is, hopefully have a good event again and rinse and repeat from last year, and have a good quality event for businesses. Everyone seems happy that participates, and, Tutnock, I've had a number of businesses across the board come into town excited about this, so.
Great.
Mark, what is the date of that, please?
The 26th of November, it's a Sunday,
Sunday after Thanksgiving.
from 2
Well,
to 5.
last year the weather was so horrible, so hopefully this year.
Yeah, we'll hope for better weather this year.
Yeah, it was awful last year.
All right.
So we're
So
not.
Mark,
Go ahead, Scott.
there are other ways for businesses that are not in the area to to help. Is that what you're saying? Like
I've had
business-
businesses I've had businesses want to be involved that don't necessarily, one doesn't have a physical location in town, is looking to do like a pop-up food tent or something in the downtown area. I don't know where and how that would be allowed, so I just have to kind of dig into that. But I am looking, no, I don't want to bring outside businesses from outside of town, but if someone really wanted to have a food truck or something in the downtown area, a hot chocolate or something like that, I think that might be a nice, feature that, might be downtown if there was an option like that.
So the Interact Club does
Yeah,
have
there's a
chocolate
bus-
at the Rotary. Yeah.
There's a business on Otis Street. If you reach out to the manager there, he'll support another business that I don't think that they'll be able to
Okay.
physically be there, but they'll help, so.
I'll reach out to you after this meeting and get that contact then, Scott. Thank you.
So we don't meet again
Okay.
before then. Is there a way that members of this board can help support the event?
I think the biggest thing would be have anyone reach out to me directly so I could be a central point of contact for anyone that wants to participate or wants to have the name on there or wants to be involved. I'll be sending an email out. I don't know how many contacts now between Zach and what I've collected, a couple. I think I have a good range of businesses, but I'll be posting on Facebook, trying to, physically get the message out there. So I guess anyone that, reach out to business, let them know this is happening. As I get social media and marketing stuff together, I'll send it out to the committee and ask them to share and, share within their networks and their friends and, social media groups would be great. So that's, I guess, for now, that's really the best I could ask for. And if I need other physical hands, I'll reach out and hit the committee directly.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mark regarding the holiday stroll? If not, then we're gonna stick with Mark and go on to the EDC Awards breakfast.
Yes, going all day here. So I don't have a date for this yet, but I just wanted to put it on, this is just to put it on our radar. I think next month, we'll have to start looking at nominating awards, because I looked at the schedule from last year, and it looks like, by January, all this has to be kind of finalized, or else we can't get awards printed. Westborough TV needs to do their piece. So we definitely need to start looking and thinking about what type of awards we're looking to do this year. If anyone has particular businesses they'd like to nominate that might get the ball rolling in some areas. And last year we didn't do a foodie award. Is there a new development project that's out there? Is there a large business? Do we have something that's worth those awards? And we kind of left our awards open-ended for that reason, because we didn't want to force ourselves every year to have to find a foodie award if there wasn't a really good restaurant that opened in that particular year. So let's, I just want people to kind of think of if there's particular categories. Maybe I'll send an email out and with the form, and if anyone wants to send suggestions, and I can start to kind of compile a list, and then we can narrow it down at the next meeting, but just so we can start thinking about that. And also the location. I know we've done it up in the Great Hall the last 3 years, which has been great for the town. From reading Zach's notes, the biggest issue he had through the whole process of being in that building was managing the guest list, because it was 125. If you were winning an award and wanted to bring 10 people, now the guest list was 115, and so on and so forth. So I think thinking about finding a larger location might be good for us, so we don't have to worry necessarily about who we invite, and open it up to the business community at large. So I think it's a beautiful event, and I'd like to see the entire business community be able to come and not just be a smaller group. So just something I'm thinking.
What's the date?
We don't have a date. We did it at the end of April last year, so I'd have to look at some dates as well. Looking at everyone else's, I didn't look at any other calendars to see what that might conflict with, so.
Christie, I think I know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
well,
I mean, we kind of talked about
Right.
just the first level of the community center, would that lend itself? It would probably only be for this year, but
Right.
it might be kind of fun to do something in
Yeah.
that space. But we wouldn't close on the property until mid-March, so I don't know if the timing would work out.
What about the fishery? Isn't there like the fishery,
Didn't we-
doesn't that have a,
They have a beautiful room, but I thought we checked
We looked
that
at it. It was
last
too
year.
small.
Yeah.
It was
It
too
was.
small, and they have a noise issue, and
Gotcha.
It was smaller than that room, I think, upstairs there. I think it was 75, I think, was the number at that room,
Okay.
Zach said
I just-
last year.
I would suggest to the board, and it's only a suggestion, that two things. One, if there's one or two individuals on this committee that would like to help Mark as a working group, that would be great. And two is that we just kind of muddle through this year with the Great Hall. It's been successful the last couple of years. I know it may be a little bit small, but then to Christie's point, we have a little bit more time to plan for next year if in fact the community center is
Yeah.
purchased by the town and its ability to host that. So we could probably open that up, but we'd have some time to plan that. It would certainly be too much of a rush this year to count on that.
Yeah.
Especially Mark needs to reach out to our guest speaker in the very near future, because you usually have to book that, as we found, several months out, and that's usually what's driven the date too,
Mm.
to a large degree.
I thought that we thought it was a good venue last year. I mean, I know it was limited space-wise, but I thought that worked out okay.
Oh, it's a beautiful venue, I think. When I'm reading, when I just read Zach's exit notes, and one of
Yeah.
the things he had mentioned was managing the list of who's able to come and not
Right.
come. He felt like there were people that could have and should have been invited that
Mhm.
might not have been because of spacing issues, and then you run into the chance if 25 people don't come, and now you have empty space you could have filled, and so it's that, it's the chicken versus the, you
Yeah.
never know which is the right answer, but that was his concern. He spent a lot of time, I guess, making sure he was staying under the fire
Mhm.
regulations and not having more than 125 up there.
It was also tight, I think, because of the food is against the wall, so
Yeah.
people kind of trying to shimmy over there with all the
Yeah.
chairs and things,
Yeah.
so.
I know we went there for the right reasons 3 years ago, was during COVID. We
Mhm.
didn't want to rent the space of the DoubleTree and then lose the space and pay the cancellation fee. So I think we went there for the right reasons, but I think now that we're out of the back into that looking forward, I think we should, look to expand this event and really make it something special for the towns. I think it's a great event for businesses and for the EDC especially, so.
Some of it goes back, if you look at it historically, it was great when they used to have the DoubleTree, but it was a very expensive
Yeah.
event.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it would consume a lot of this committee's time and efforts to get that kind of funding for that.
Right.
So it's been much more reasonable from a funding
Oh, yeah.
standpoint to hold that we still have knickknacks to eat and stuff, but it's not a full breakfast.
Yeah.
So we don't lose the point of that. So anyway, that's only my 2 cents.
Does Ruth have any large,
I was trying to think of what the capacity of 118's cafeteria is. I know we've had functions there with the state before, but
It's really
I
big.
don't know what the capacity is.
That's nice of you, Mark, to offer that up.
I think that sounds great. That sounds
Did
great.
anyone else step back?
That's what I heard.
I can put your name right on top of that. I can see Caruth right at the top.
I would make a motion that Mark host it.
all right.
Okay.
All right, so we really got to start to focus on this.
Yeah,
within the
so if
next-
anyone's interested
next year.
in working with this, please reach out, and I'm happy to have one or two people work with me
Yeah.
as we go forward with this.
Yeah, and you'll send an email with the categories that we've used in the past and who
Yes,
received
I'll
them?
send the categories used in the past and any ideas of,
Yeah.
suggestions, and maybe some kind of Google form to make it easy so we can,
Yep.
kind of have a way of tracking it all so I can keep, figure out what everyone's looking
Yeah.
for.
And who do we want to do for keynote speaker? Have we discussed that?
Well, so, I haven't spoken to Mark about this, and I apologize. The lieutenant governor in past was our speaker for many years. Actually, I thought and I'll say it wrong, I finally got the EOHLC thing separated out, but the economic secretary, I thought she was fantastic
Really
last
great.
year.
Yeah, really great.
I would suggest that unless the board's opposed, that Mark try to reach out to that secretary again to
Yeah.
see if she's willing to speak. I thought she was very dynamic, and it'd be appropriate to have somebody in that status to speak to businesses.
I know it varies a lot based on who you would get for a speaker, but what time of day would be preferred?
This would be the breakfast, so usually this has been,
Okay,
I
so it
think,
wouldn't
8
be,
o'clock.
wouldn't be lunchtime.
No, this would be an
No,
early
it-
morning.
That would probably be tough for the staff, because they usually, again, our guest speaker usually want to hit it before they went to the State House, wherever they may have to go for the day. But generally, that's driven when we've had this thing in the past.
And the good news is she lives in the Berkshires, so her commute to Boston comes right through Westborough, so
Yeah.
it's
So usually it's tough to get them back during the middle of the day, based on historically their schedules.
Well, I just didn't want a conflict with the tenant's use of the cafeteria for lunch. Would be my only.
You have to kick them off for breakfast.
That's okay. They'll probably sneak a muffin or two.
All right, So we got some follow-up items to do on that, so.
Yeah, I'll follow up with everyone there.
200 chairs.
Next on the agenda is the new EDC member at large discussion, and again, it's Mark.
Yep, so I just wanted to bring this up. I believe we have to post this. Is that something, Christie? I thought you might be able to clarify that we have an open spot that I vacated.
Yep, so Sela typically will post in the vacancies and then, they can make the announcement at the select board meeting. But
So-
if anyone knows anyone, they would just need to send a letter of interest to our office.
Okay. So what do we have to do to get, is Sheila working on the posting, or is that something we need to
I think
request?
she usually does that as soon as she receives the resignation, which I know she has,
did,
so,
yeah.
it's really just added to our list of vacancies, it's not,
Yeah.
it's not really that visible, honestly,
Right.
so I think if people can just be out there kind of talking about it, we'll bring it up at the select board meeting, and
I know we
Yeah.
talked about the woman the woman that owns Racks.
Yeah, like
You know?
we said, just thinking outside the box here to make sure we have a panel that represents the whole town's
Yeah.
interest. I think we have a lot of downtown businesses represented here, the town represented. I think having someone on Route 9 or either in manufacturing or in a restaurant industry, I think would bring an opinion that we don't necessarily have on this board, which could be interesting to, for discussion purposes. I think it's important. So if anyone has suggestions of someone they're interested in, reach out to me, and then I can connect them to Celia directly to make sure they can submit their letter of intention, I guess, and we can go from there if anyone has someone.
Yeah, Laylee Tofi's a good suggestion. We could reach out, either Mark or I could reach out to her. We have contact. They actually just had their ribbon cutting.
Yeah, that's we
So-
were all there, we're like, oh, she'd be a good EDC member.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's good sized business. It's, you know,
Manufacturing.
right,
And
it's
Route- And
manufacturing.
Route 9.
Yeah, absolutely. It
Yeah.
checks a lot of boxes.
I also mentioned this to Catherine Nurse for Veg Out, and it might be worth reaching out to her just
Okay.
to see. She's not downtown, but she's food.
Yeah, I wasn't pushing away from down.
Yeah.
I was just trying to get a different audience.
I think food is such an attraction that's definitely a category to look at.
Okay, next on the agenda is the planning department report. Jenny?
Yes, thank you. So for the planning board, we still have an open hearing for 161 Milk Street, which is MA restoration and also a self-storage facility. So the next planning board meeting date is November 14th. The other application that we have for November 14th is Zero Bridal Lane, which is Boston Lawnmower. They're coming in for a site plan review. Other planning news, we did receive the grant from the One Stop for Growth program to hire a consultant to work on a downtown master plan. So that's really exciting for us, and the RFP was sent out on Monday, so I believe responses are due, I want to say December 6th. So once we get those in, we'll be reviewing them and awarding it, hopefully, to a consultant. We are also working on the B-Walt story map, which is essentially just describing what the B-Walt is, and we'll be having some public information sessions probably in December, just to invite people to come in and hear about what the B-Walt is, what we're planning on doing, and the different steps involved for implementation. And I mentioned this before, but planning board is online now for permit applications. So if someone wants to submit a permit application, they can go onto our website, and everything is online there. And the same with design review board as well. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Next is the community development department report. Fred?
Yeah, fairly quickly, as you put it last month, things are still slow, albeit I am happy to say that 64 Otis Street is getting close to opening. They should be able to stock hopefully in the next week or so. I don't know when they'll actually open, so you can start ordering stuff out of there. It's a same-day delivery through Amazon, so hopefully you'll be able to get stuff out of there soon. One business that did come to us finally, I don't say finally because I didn't know what was happening, for a building permit is Dollar Tree. So they're locating in the back side of 1 Oak Street. Oak Street is the facility that's at the corner of Lyman and Turnpike. It's kind of a misnomed address, but anyway, that's Oak Street. So they're locating into the back side of that, what used to be Crunch. Crunch, sorry, wrong flavor, so my apologies. So they will be locating in that facility.
That's crazy.
And they are keeping their other location open at Ocean State Job Lot.
Which
So
is
they're gonna
good.
actually have two in town.
Yeah, that's
A mile
great
and a
to
half
know.
from each other.
Thank you for that news, because we don't like vacancies, so that's good that they're not vacating the Ocean State site.
All right. Any questions for Fred? Okay, other business?
Quick question. Mark, are we talking about the holiday passport? Is that something you're gonna continue with?
Honestly, from reading Zach's notes, I think he only got about 45 completed
Mhm.
cards last year. And once again, from reading through his memorandum of leaving, it sounded like it was a really heavy lift for what he thought the results didn't necessarily pan out. So once again, in a concept of me learning my role and trying to make things happen as best I can, I realized I did not have the bandwidth to
Yeah.
put that together, because I think the amount of hours he spent running around, putting signs up and making sure everyone had cards was immense. So if it's something we wanted to come back with, if someone's interested in, I can help. But like I said, I just didn't think I had the means this year to put something like that together.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because I
Okay.
might be able to.
I have
see
some of the
Allison
equipment and
over
stuff.
there. Yeah, I mean, especially if it's something that we can just kind of build on.
Yeah,
I
if you
know
can
there was a
build-
lot
I
of
mean, I'm
heavy work
happy
in the
to-
beginning.
We can set up a time.
All
I'll
right.
reach out to you after the
Okay.
meeting. We'll find time today or tomorrow to talk.
So some of the things we have to keep in mind with these, that was one of the goals and suggestions that came out of the LRP, so we did get funding for that originally. As we move forward through the process of the LRP, we have to keep in mind that we'd have to find a funding source. So some of the goals that Zach and now Mark are realized through the LRP will be things we hope to repeat. So we'd have to collectively decide if that's one of them, if I have to find a new funding source for that. It wasn't a huge dollar thing, but nonetheless, it's still, there's no money to fund it at this point. Not to say we can't.
No, right. When Allison and I started it a couple of years ago, we actually had the business contribute like nominal fee just for printing, but.
Yeah. I have some of the stuff in Zach's drawer. I can go through and see what's in there. I don't know what's 100% useful and what's not. I have to dig through all the pieces of it, but it's.
The biggest thing would be, for instance, the $1,500. There was $150 gift certificates, and there were 10. So, so there are different ways to look at funding it, but certainly those are decisions we have to make. Shop Westborough is something we've maintained. So it's kind of a pick and choose what's coming out of the LRP, what we decide to support as a town. I will say, though, I'm happy to say this, and I'll have Mark follow up if I can. I'm proud to say, actually, that the town has implemented many, if not, and ultimately, maybe all the goals for the LRP. And this is anecdotal, but I'm not hearing that every town was able to do that. So not only did this committee work as part of that, but that we're still continuing to implement those. And Mark has some things coming up to continue that success that this town has had.
That's great.
One more quick thing, the ambassadors for the EDC.
Yeah.
I'm out there shaking hands, kissing babies, and asking people, when are
Okay.
we, I've got 2 more people interested,
All
so.
right.
Is
Connect them
it
to me.
Pete with you and?
Yeah, right now I have Pete, and at some point I was gonna talk to Paul to help me a little more here. He sits in all our meetings, so I think he'd be someone that knows the information and is out there meeting the people.
Yeah, there's definitely some interest out there, you know.
And figure out what that means, and it will be things like helping with the grant program, this signage thing, if it does go forward, to educate people, if that's truly what we're trying to do with design and review. I think the ambassadors are a great program to go out there in a non-aggressive way to say, hey, here are the 3 issues that are problems with your signs. Could we see if we could work on these and find out who the people, who wants to play nice and who wants to tell you to, I don't care, I guess. And there'll be 2 different answers, I'm assuming, out there, like most things in the world. So if anyone's interested, once again, please have them connect with me, and that should be an answer, I think, across the board for any business in town. I want to be the resource for them, so let them come to me, overwhelm me a little bit, and I'll dish them out with Fred's help and Jenny's help and everyone's help in my office to the right people to get stuff done for them. So.
Okay. Anything else?
The only other thing I wanted to mention, and Christie, I don't want to put you on the spot, I know at the end of the month, there is the tax classification vote coming up for the end, is there anything that we, obviously, last year we supported the staying where we're at, the single tax rate, is there anything as a board we might need to look at for that going forward at the end of the month?
Yes, so that'll be November 28th. So typically the board receives something from Karen Chapman. I know last year the board kind of did a deep dive into tax classification that started in the summer, just to really understand and help the community understand that process and really what that's about. If this committee wanted to take a vote, you would need to do it you would have to schedule another meeting because it's not on your agenda, but that is coming up on the 28th, and it has to be done on the 28th, so.
I think that's something that we should take a stance on. I think historically, we have been in full support of a single rate system for the town, so I think that if people are open to it, I think we need to. Can we do a Zoom meeting? And
I could
do
do a
the vote?
Zoom meeting, we could do a completely remote Zoom meeting at, a particular time later next week sometime.
I think that's important.
Just, I apologize, I didn't get it on the agenda, it was something that came, I was listening to something yesterday and it came across my notes in the process of something I don't know what I was watching, but something you were talking about, obviously.
If I may, Todd, that's a great point. So if you could, as a committee, suggest some dates, we'd have to post it 48 hours at
Right.
least and post it as a
So-
virtual meeting. So if anybody wanted to
If
attend.
we said next week, maybe on if this time works on a Tuesday morning, we could do it first thing on Zoom and get it out of the way. It'd only be one agenda item, I can almost draft a letter beforehand, so everyone could read it. If they have any suggestions on edits or anything, or something I'd like to add, I could obviously ask for people's help in the office to make sure I get all the pieces in there. But it could be.
Might even be able to find the one that Zach did last year.
I can find the one that Zach did, and also I know Karen's
Karen's got,
yeah.
I already saw Karen's the other day, so that's something I know that, So would next Tuesday at the same time, would that be something, if we did 8 AM to kind of, just 8 to 8:15, are we done nice and quick?
Works for me.
Yeah.
All right, I will put a calendar item out and draft a letter and get that out. And
Is there a quorum required for that?
we would need the 7, I
So
think
does
it's
that
7 or
work
8.
for everybody?
Does that work for everyone? So we got
So
1, 2,
Tuesday, November 14th at 8 AM.
Tuesday, November 14th at 8 AM.
I believe that we have a design review board meeting.
Oh, at that same time?
Okay, never mind.
Oh, there we go, that solves that.
Yeah, I would just remind folks that stuff that Mark sends out via email, do not respond to all to
Right.
with suggestions. We do not conduct business via email. Okay. I just
So-
know other committees have made that mistake.
Thank you. So if we said so we'll say Tuesday the 14th at 8 AM, I'll send a calendar item and the letter, the draft out, and we'll go from there. All right, thank you.
Great.
Okay, and our next scheduled meeting is December 5th at 8 AM. So, any other business? If not, I'll take a motion to.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Alexander, yes?
Kearney Coker, yes.
Kenny, yes?
Leonardo, yes.
Bagden, yes.
Williams, yes.
Keo, yes.
Fingers, yes.
Varro, yes.
Rayleigh, yes.
All right, thank you all very much, and hopefully see everybody next Tuesday at 8 for a quick Zoom meeting.
Yes.
Sounds good.